I got a special request from one smart fella to do a chicken coop tour. He's building a chicken coop and wants some ideas. Although I already have a video of me building my chicken coop that's posted, I wanted to just do a quick walkthrough tour of some of the features that I put on my coop and why I built it the way I did. Let's get into it. So the dimensions on my chicken coop are 8 foot by 8 foot square for the actual coop or the living quarters. And the way that I came up with that is sheets of plywood come in 4 by 8 sheets typically. You take 2 4 by 8 sheets, put them together, you end up with 8 by 8. So I basically put 2 sheets of plywood down side by side, took a look at it, and I said that's the footprint that I want to have for my chicken coop. Now I didn't use just plywood for the flooring. I actually used Advantech, which is what you use like in your house floors. It's waterproof, it's impermeable, the stuff is very expensive, but it is extremely resistant to moisture and it will last a long time. You're not going to see it warp or anything like your OSB and stuff would. Pretend farmer's pushing about 5'10", 5'11". This coop is about twice as tall as I am. So we'll just go ahead and say 12, 13 feet tall up to the peak on the roof. There's a reason that I made this coop so tall. For one, by peaking the roof the way I did, it allowed me to put ventilation in on both ends of the coop. And as you can see, I've got, if anything, I've got a little bit excessive ventilation. I had to actually block some off this winter. But those slats have lots of space in them up there at the top, specifically for ventilation, because ventilation is important in a coop. The other reason I went with the A-frame roof that's pitched the way it is because I can stand up in there without bumping my head. So I can walk in the door, stand straight up. I don't have to crawl around or bend over and walk all hunched over like this when I'm in my coop. And that has been very nice. I'd recommend doing that over like a lean-to style roof or something where it's going to start out tall on one end and get narrower. You're going to end up spending a lot of time hunched over if you go with something like that. Whereas this, I can move around in there. I don't ever have to bend. The other reason that I made it so high up is because, as you can see, the chickens can easily go underneath of the coop for shelter. And this is good for when it's raining in the summertime and they want to stay out of the rain. It's also good for when it's really hot and they want some shade. They can get under there and it's kind of like a little area for them to stay in the shade. And the cool thing is, it doesn't set so low to the ground that the chickens can go under it, but I can't fit under there. If I need to go under there and get a chicken or clean it out, do anything like that, I do have to kind of bend over to get under there, but it's not like I have to crawl on my stomach or anything. I can easily kind of crunch down, get under there. I can go underneath of it to do whatever I need to do. So I made it just tall enough for that. The other reason that I wanted it to be up so far off the ground is because it's not possible for predators to get under there and hide anywhere. It's simply nowhere for them to be. And I hung their feeder underneath of there to keep the food dry, because we used to use the hanging metal feeder before we went to the silos, and that needed a place to stay under shelter where it wouldn't get rained on and stuff. So several purposes went into the planning of why this coop is elevated the way it is. I built a nice little simple set of steps that go up to the door. Let me show you inside real quick. Now, one thing to note about this type of latch is you have to have a way to take your door and make it stay open. What I ended up doing was taking this little bungee cord here and hooking to it. And that way, if the wind's blowing or something, the door will not flop around. It's going to stay right where it is. The reason why that is so important is because if I don't secure the door and it's a windy day, if that thing blows shut, I am locked in there. And believe it or not, Pretend Farmer can actually fit through this opening here where the chickens come out. Not easy, but I've had to do it before simply because I got locked in the coop there. This is a one-sided latch. And honestly, if I could change anything, I would not have used this style latch on my main door. I would have went to one of the other ones that will not automatically lock when it goes shut. So right there's a good tip from experience that I can give you. Don't go with that kind of latch. But it's not a problem as long as you keep the door open or make sure the door is fixed so that it will not close. If nothing else, you can just put something through there so that it can't latch. But yeah, there's my Advantech flooring. We've got 3 nest boxes that I'll show you. We access them from the back. There you can see my broody hen has already tucked herself away this evening with her babies. You can see them peeking out from her butt there. There's 1, 2, 3, a couple more buried under the feathers, but we're having lots of fun with them. Roost bars. You'll remember my video I just did not long ago where I added the top roost bar. They really seem to like the higher elevation roost bars. As you can see here, the bars are different elevations from each other, but they're not right over top of each other. So the chickens roosting up high here aren't going to be pooping on the ones down there. But they've really seemed to prefer the higher up roost bars from what I've noticed. They all fight over the top one, even though there's plenty of space for everybody to gather down below. This bar here I'm going to eventually take out. I'm just kind of using that for the pullets for now because they aren't quite ready to roost up alongside of the bigger ones yet. I went to Harbor Freight and bought these cheap little hooks to mount my scraper and my shovel for cleaning out the coop. So my utensils are right here ready to go when I need to clean this coop out. And I do clean this coop out about this time of year, probably close to twice a week, at least once a week, even in the wintertime. Hey, there's an egg. Oh, they packed it, darn it. So like I said, you come on around the side here. Now, because of the height of this thing, I did make a little set of steps with some of my scrap lumber I had left over. So I can just step up on these steps here, lift the lid up, and there's my 3 nest boxes. This is how I gather my eggs. Hey there, grouchy mama chicken. Hey, grouchy. This stick, in case you're wondering, I'll use to kind of prop up under that lid when I lift it up so that if I have a basket, I can collect my eggs with both hands and I don't have to hold the lid open while I try and reach in and not bust any eggs I'm pulling out. I put a little dust bath area for them in the corner over there, just boxed it in and filled it with some dirt. They have a swing in here. They use that sometimes, not a whole lot. I've got a ramp that goes all the way up, and we're actually missing a slat here. You always got chores to do on the farm, I tell you. Gonna have to fix that. But yeah, that kind of gives them something to get traction on as they go up the ramp into their coop. There's the hook where I used to hang their feeder. This is the chain and hook where their water used to hang. Now right now I've got this down here because that's what the chicks are eating their starter feed out of. And that's gonna go away here soon, but we just gotta have that right now until they're big enough to eat out of the big girl feeders. This door here can close, and that's what I call their secure run area. It would be very hard for any kind of predators to get in here just because of the way that this thing is designed. I've got 14 gauge welded wire buried underground. So not only can something not squeeze under the fence, it's gonna have to dig anywhere it looks all the way around. Even on the top, I ran the 14 gauge welded wire fencing so that hawks or nothing can climb up there and easily claw its way in. Something's gonna have to really work to get in this run. Every part of it is buried. There you can see the chickens have even tried to dig a little bit, and the wire just keeps going down because it's all buried. So if I shut that door there, they're really secure in there. Now what happened was I got so many extra chickens and I quit free ranging them for a while, and I wanted them to stay secure. So I built this additional run. This is what I like to call their overflow run, or their auxiliary area. It's basically a run alongside of their run. And this one is not secure. This one I just ordered some of this cheap netting off of Amazon. It was like a 100 square foot section of this kind of like bird netting, and it's real cheap, but it has held up well. It was $14, and I've had it on here for a little over a year, and it's just to kind of protect them in the event that a hawk would try and swoop down or something during the day. Although a hawk could probably honestly blast right through it if it was determined, and a raccoon or something could definitely easily chew through that in a couple seconds. So that's not really a good permanent solution if this was the only run they had and something could access the coop from there at nighttime. But because they have to get in through that other area, this is just kind of to keep them safe during the daytime. It works fine. And this is actually where I keep their food and their water, because like I said, we use these CoopWorks silos now. They're working out real good. And so this just is kind of like where they spend a lot of time during the day. And it'll actually stay partially shaded over here due to these trees in the early afternoon. So they really like spending time over here in this auxiliary run. I got this black rubber material from a roofing company. This is actually the same type of rubber they would put on like a commercial building for the rubber roofing. And I just cut a strip of that, screwed it up to the side of the coop and down on the hinges for the nest box lid. And I ended up caulking this seam up here. And of course, if it rains, any water will run down over there. It's sealed up, and it'll just run right on down and off the edges of the nest box lid, rather than go down in the hinges there where it hinges and get anything wet inside the coop or cause the wood to rot. That hasn't been a problem so far. Now you notice there's a string running all the way from that first little vent up there down, and then it hooks onto a carabiner right here. This was my own invention, and I'm pretty excited about this. That string runs through there, through a set of pulleys, and attaches down to a sliding door, which will close when I release the string. Watch this. When I want the chickens to stay in, like say we have a blizzard or a bad snowstorm, and I know they're not even going to be coming out in the run anyway, I'll go ahead and close that just to keep any draft out, just to make sure that chickens don't get, end up flopping out and get stuck in the snow or something. That's for mainly to keep the chickens in rather than predators out. I've found that the fences, the 14 gauge welded wire fences, are sufficient, and nothing's ever even tried to chew through or dig under those. Now, just some fun little things I did is I added these solar lights, real cheap. I think they came off of Amazon, but these cut on automatically at nighttime, and they'll stay lit up throughout most of the night until they go dead. And then the next day they will recharge again off the sun, and they are fairly bright. It's actually a proven fact that having a lighted perimeter around your chicken coop and your chicken run is going to actually help deter predators from coming in at night. It's not foolproof, but it's one extra measure you can take to help protect your chickens. Plus, if I need to come out here and check on something, it's usually enough light that I don't need to get a flashlight or something. It's getting close to dark, and our chickens are actually slowly heading up for bedtime one by one. So here in a few minutes, I'll be able to show you what it looks like inside of here when these birds go into roost. it's pretty funny to open up the door and see them all packed in there. Because as you can tell, we got a lot of chickens. You know, you do your research about how much space chickens require. Technically, when you look at the square feet of space that each bird is supposed to have, an 8x8 coop is nowhere near big enough to house all these chickens. That's taken into consideration that they're going to be living in that space. In our case here, this is not Alaska where they're going to be living inside the coop for days at a time because it's staying dark outside and they aren't going to go out. These birds get up every day and they go free range. So literally all they do in here is sleep and lay eggs. And honestly, even with 3 nest boxes, it's never really a problem. A lot of times, sometimes they'll go 2 to a nest box because they're wide nest boxes. I've never really had many problems with them not having an opportunity to lay in the nest boxes. Clearly something happened today, but that's not common. The main thing is that you're cleaning up their litter because this many chickens are going to poop a lot, and that's really what you got to stay on top of. When you got this many, you got to get in there. Like I said, I'm doing it twice a week, going in, scraping out the poop, putting down fresh bedding, and that's very important because wet chicken litter is what invites diseases and parasites and all the stuff you don't want in your coop. So keeping good, fresh, clean bedding down, that's really essential. That's more important than the actual amount of space that they have per se. Y'all ready to see this? Let's take a look. Like I said, most of them prefer to be way up on that top roost bar. But since they obviously won't all fit up there, most of them settle for the next level down. And then, like I said, I'm eventually going to remove this bar here just because, as you can see, there's only one hen using it as of now. Of course, there's a good view of the ventilation I've got from the inside out. Like I said, summertime when it's 100 degrees out, at least they're up there roosting next to that where they're maybe getting just a little bit of a breeze through. Just to help keep them a little more comfortable. It's actually not good for chickens to be breathing their waste in all the time. Their poop, it's got ammonia in it. It can cause respiratory problems. The wet litter, if it gets damp, it can kind of get some mildew on it. That can cause respiratory problems. If you got good ventilation in your coop, you're going to minimize that. I went full send on the ventilation, but it's easier to block it off than it is to not have enough and be trying to add more. So better to err on the side of caution. I'm the pretend farmer. That's my jumbo coop. I hope you've liked this video, and if you got any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down below. Oh yeah, and by the way, subscribe to this channel. We're going to keep posting more videos about chickens, whether you like them or not. But assuming you like them and you want to see more, you get notifications if you subscribe, and it helps out our channel. So hit the subscribe button. Feel free to comment. I try and answer all of you, although sometimes I drop the ball. Till next time, this is Pretend Farmer, signing out.